Los Angeles glimmered like a golden mirage beneath the unrelenting sunlight, a city whose heart pulsed with fame, fortune, and illusion. It was a place where the line between dream and delusion dissolved into shimmering heat, and where ambition could either crown a man in starlight or bury him in silence. Among the thousands who arrived each year to chase a fragment of immortality through the lens of a camera, Jake Turner was simply another name, another restless soul intoxicated by the promise of digital glory. He was 21, brimming with raw determination, armed with a camera, a second-hand laptop, and a stubborn conviction that he could carve his name into the endless noise of the internet. Yet Los Angeles was a cruel city for the nameless. Within a month of arrival, his modest savings evaporated like mist, his rented room became unaffordable, and the glittering dream that had lured him westward began to crumble into quiet despair. It was on one such evening, sitting upon a cracked bench overlooking the Hollywood Hills, that the spark of his dangerous idea ignited. Scrolling absently through his phone, he stumbled upon a vlog from the Stokes twins. Saw Alan and Alexa, two of the internet's most radiant stars. Their latest video displayed a palatial mansion, marble floors gleaming beneath chandeliers, infinity pools cascading into perfection, laughter echoing through halls vast enough to house kingdoms. They lived as though reality itself had bent to their will. Jake stared at the screen, envy clawing quietly at his chest. They had achieved everything he hungered for: adoration, wealth, boundless attention. Yet what struck him most was not their fame, but their carelessness. Their lives unfolded before millions, every room, every corridor, every corner of their empire exposed to the public eye. An impossible thought began to bloom in the darker recesses of his mind. What if someone lived 3 broken bars secretly? At first, he laughed aloud, dismissing the absurdity, but the longer he considered it, the more plausible it became. The mansion was vast, a labyrinth of unused rooms, forgotten spaces, an endless movement. The twins were constantly surrounded by friends, production teams, and chaos. Could anyone truly notice if one quiet stranger existed between the walls? For the next week, Jake studied every detail of their online content. He paused frames, mapped hallways, analyzed reflections in glass doors, memorized entrances and exits. Through obsessive observation, he discovered a structure behind their main residency, a smaller guest house seldom mentioned, scarcely filmed, perhaps once used as a studio, perhaps now abandoned. That, he decided, would become his invisible kingdom. He waited until an opportunity revealed itself. The twins departed for a content tour in Miami, leaving behind a minimal household staff that appeared only on scheduled days. Jake learned the patterns meticulously: the gardener every Friday morning, the cleaner twice a week, deliveries at noon. On a silent Tuesday night, the city shrouded in haze, Jake crossed the narrow street that separated his temporary shelter from their walled paradise. Dressed entirely in black, his heart hammering with adrenaline and fear, he scaled the rear wall, slipped through the hedges, and reached the glistening poolside of the Stokes estate. The mansion stood before him like a sleeping giant, bathed in the silver breath of moonlight. He found the guest house locked, but one window yielded easily to his trembling hands. Within moments, he was inside. The air was thick with dust and faint chlorine, the scent of water drifting from the pool beyond. Yet, to Jake, it smelled of victory. He whispered to himself, "This is it. This is where my story begins." He recorded his first secret vlog that night, his voice a barely audible murmur in the dark. "Day 1, he whispered, the glow of his phone illuminating the hollow room. "I have entered the mansion of the Stokes twins. I intend to live here quietly, unseen for as long as I can. I will take nothing that cannot be spared. I want only to understand this world from within." The thrill electrified him. For the first time in months, he felt alive, purposeful, invincible. But the illusion of safety shattered with dawn. The following morning, he woke to the unmistakable sound of laughter echoing through the courtyard. They had returned early. Panic surged through his body. Crawling to the window, He peeked through the blinds. There they were, Alan and Alex, tossing a football near the pool, sunlight reflecting from their smiles. They were close enough for Jake to hear every word, every careless joke. He remained frozen for hours, afraid even to breathe too loudly. Each time their laughter drifted near, his pulse quickened. That day marked the beginning of his double life, via a fugitive of his own ambition, a ghost inhabiting another man's dream. As the days unfolded, Jake adapted. He studied their schedule until it became second nature, filming at noon, editing past midnight, sleeping late. He learned which corridors remained unvisited, which cabinets contained forgotten snacks, which doors squeaked too loudly. Each night, he emerged like a shadow, collecting food, water, and fragments of footage for his secret documentary. He discovered the mansion was not merely vast but alive with contradiction. Behind the shimmering perfection of every frame lay exhaustion, argument, and repetition. He listened through walls as the twins debated over content strategies, sponsorships, and audience algorithms. He watched as their smiles for the camera faded into silence. Once the recording stopped, it struck him deeply. A fame, he realized, was not freedom, it was performance, ceaseless and consuming. By the end of the first week, Jake had begun to feel an eerie attachment to his hidden world. The guest house became his domain, the pool his horizon, the muffled voices of the twins his soundtrack. He began speaking to them silently, as if they could hear his thoughts. "You don't even know I'm here," he whispered once, staring through the glass. "Yet I know everything about you." On the seventh night, disaster nearly claimed him. While sneaking into the main kitchen for food, he heard footsteps approach. With reflexes sharpened by fear, he ducked behind the counter just as Alan entered, phone in hand. The refrigerator door opened, spilling white light across the tiles. Jake's breath caught in his throat as Alan stood mere inches away. A soda hissed open, footsteps retreated, and the door shut again. When silence finally returned, Jake collapsed to the floor, drenched in cold sweat. Into his camera he whispered later, voice trembling, "Tonight I almost got caught. I saw him. He was right there. I felt like I was standing inside someone else's life." But danger did not dissuade him, it emboldened him. Each narrow escape intensified the addiction to secrecy, to invisibility. He began moving through the mansion more freely, even showering in unused bathrooms, charging his phone in their unused gas outlets. On the 10th day, he overheard something that sent a chill through his spine. Alex was recording an Instagram story, half laughing yet uneasy. "Yo, guys, something weird's happening in the house. Snacks missing, lights flickering, doors left open. I swear, if this place is haunted, I'm leaving." Jake's stomach tightened. They had begun to notice. He stared at his reflection that night, pale and hollow-eyed, and for the first time, questioned the madness of his endeavor. He considered leaving before discovery could ruin him. But pride whispered otherwise. "You've come too far. Just a few more days, then you can reveal it on your terms." And so he stayed. The 12th night arrived with rain, soft and rhythmic against the windows. Jake lay half awake when he heard the unmistakable creak of the guest house door. His blood ran cold. Flashlight beams cut through the darkness. Voices murmured outside. "Alex, did you hear that?" "Yeah, bro, I think someone's inside." The handle turned. The door opened. Light flooded the room. Alan stepped forward cautiously, wielding a baseball bat. Alex followed, phone raised, recording every second. Jake crouched behind the couch, heart hammering against his ribs, but he knew the game was over. Slowly, trembling, he emerged from the shadows, raising his hands in surrender. "Wait," he said hoarsely, "please don't freak out. I can explain." Alan's face blanched. "Who the hell are you?" Jake swallowed, his throat dry. "My name is Jake Turner. I've been living here secretly for 12 days. I'm not here to steal or hurt anyone. The broken bar making a social experiment." Alex blinked. "A what?" Jake took a breath. I wanted to see how long I could survive unnoticed in a celebrity mansion. To understand what fame looks like from the shadows. Silence fell, heavy and disbelieving. Then, unexpectedly, Alex began to laugh. "This guy's insane. You're telling me you broke into our house for a YouTube challenge?" Jake nodded miserably. "Yes, but I never meant harm. I just wanted to tell a story no one's told before." Alan exhaled, lowering the bat. "You could have gotten yourself arrested. You're lucky we didn't call the police already." Jake met his eyes. "I know, but please just let me explain. I didn't touch your things. I didn't destroy anything. I only observed." For a long moment, none of them spoke. Then Alan turned toward his brother with the look of disbelief mixed with amusement. "You know what, maybe this is too crazy not to share." Alex grinned, nodding. "Yeah, let's make it real. The internet will go insane." And so they did. That night, the three of them sat together under bright studio lights as cameras rolled, telling the extraordinary story to the world. The resulting video: "We found the guy living in our mansion for 12 days. Insane." They exploded across the internet, shattering every record. 10 million views in 24 hours. Comments flooded in from every corner of the globe. Jake Turner became an overnight phenomenon. Some called him brilliant, others reckless, but all were fascinated by his audacity. Offers poured in from networks, sponsors, interviewers. What had begun as an act of desperation transformed into digital legend. A week later, Jake launched his own channel, releasing the full chronicle of his secret experiment. The video, raw, emotional, filled with confession and fear, captured millions of hearts. For the first time, his name echoed through the same algorithms that once ignored him. Yet amid the chaos of newfound fame, Jake often found himself haunted by memory. Late at night, he returned to that first recording of the trembling whisper in the darkness of the guesthouse. "Day 1, I have broken into the Stokes twins' mansion, a broken bar." He remembered the fear, the hunger, the quiet insanity that had driven him to live as a ghost among stars. Fame had arrived at last, but it carried a strange hollowness. He saw now that the mansion had never been the goal, it had been a mirror, reflecting everything he both desired and despised. Months later, as the fever of virality subsided, Jake sat once more beside the twins, overlooking the glittering expanse of Los Angeles. The sky burned orange with the setting sun, and the air was thick with the scent of possibility. Alan turned to him quietly. "So tell me, Jake, your broken bar, was it worth it?" Jake stared into the distant horizon, where the city lights began to awaken. "At first, I thought I was chasing attention," he said slowly. "But now I understand. I wasn't trying to be seen, I was trying not to disappear. I wanted proof that I existed in a world that only notices the loudest voices." Alex smiled faintly. "Well, you proved it. Next time, though, maybe just knock on the door." Jake laughed, the sound soft but sincere. In the months that followed, Jake's channel evolved beyond stunts and challenges. He began producing documentaries exploring the fragile humanity behind fame, the cost of constant exposure, the loneliness beneath the spotlight. The Stokes twins often collaborated, embracing the strange bond that had formed from that night of discovery. Yet sometimes, when silence settled over the city, Jake would sit by his window and remember those 12 forbidden days of the quiet footsteps through marble corridors, the shadows that kept him company, the terror and the wonder of existing unseen. He understood now that his experiment had never been about survival or fame. It had been about rather the truth that every human being, no matter how invisible, seeks connection, that behind every perfect image lies a heartbeat trembling with the same fear of being forgotten. Los Angeles shimmered endlessly beyond his balcony, the same mirage of light and promise, but Jake Turner no longer chased it. He simply watched, knowing he had touched its illusion, lived inside its hollow heart, and emerged with something far rarer than fame: self-awareness. He smiled quietly, whispering to himself as the city hummed below, "I once lived in someone else's dream, now I finally live in my own." And in that simple truth, hidden behind the roar of the world, Jake found peace,